So today we're going to beat Pokemon with the absolute worst team possible. That's it. That's the video. Alright, let's get this over with. So to get started, I named myself. Professor Oak forgets his grandson's name. I name him something very mature, and our adventure begins. So for my starter, I picked Squirtle, but it doesn't really matter because we're going to go through one battle with him, and then we're going to get rid of him as soon as possible. So for this challenge, I'm also making it a rule I can't evolve the Pokemon unless it evolves into an even worse Pokemon than what it was previously. And with that, without further ado, let's get into it. So I win my rival battle and then head out to capture my first team member. And trust me, we're going to treasure this win because throughout this game, we're going to lose a lot. So I run some errands for Professor Oak, and now it's off to capture our first member of our team, who I name Subscribe, which is something you guys should do. I head to the PC and box Squirtle. This is unfortunately the last time we're ever going to see him. And then I head to Viridian Forest to capture our next teammate. Yeah, this isn't going to be a fun playthrough. Anyway, I name him Like. I'll let you gather as to why I named him that. I then capture a third teammate who I name Comet. Go figure. Now I head out into the great unknown to fight Brock, the first gym leader. But first, I have to fight the first trainer in the gym, who promptly kicks my ass and then I black out. I lose to him twice. But you know what they say, third time's a charm, and on my third attempt I'm able to poison stall him out and move on to Brock. Brock ends up actually being pretty tricky though, and I get knocked out a total of half a dozen times before I decide to just level up in the grass for like 3 hours so I can beat him finally. But after a ton of losses, grossly overleveling my Pokemon, spending hours grinding in the grass just to beat him, I win, through pure luck and the power of Struggle Attack. So Like takes down his Onix and we move on to the next route. I do take a detour though to catch another team member, and this isn't actually going to be our next team member, but rather a replacement. Let me explain. So basically, I decided I didn't like having two Pokemon within the same evolutionary line on our team and decided I needed to diversify. So I caught this Caterpie and I named it Notebell, which is an abbreviation for something you should be clicking on right now. Anyway, I use him to replace Kakuna because it just seemed more fitting. And I'm going to let this Caterpie evolve into Metapod, just so we can have that diverse team that we need to beat the Elite Four. After spending what seemed like an eternity walking around in the grass, I decided to catch our next team member before heading into Mount Moon. That's right, Jigglypuff, which, if you didn't know, is complete garbage. Almost as bad as Metapod, and I'm not even kidding about that. But all is well in the world, and I named Jigglypuff Like, the replacement to our dearly lost Kakuna, and we head on to Mount Moon. Now, I know earlier I was just trash-talking Jigglypuff, but let me be clear about something. Jigglypuff and Rattata are going to end up being our best Pokemon throughout this playthrough, which unfortunately is not saying a lot. But they are shaping up at the very least to be usable. Well, I take that back. Serviceable would be a better word. And we move on to catch the next member of our team, a Zubat. I go ahead and I name him Eric, mainly because I'm running out of ways to beg for engagement on my videos, and I thought that, hey, it happened to my buddy Eric once me, and thought it'd be funny to name him that. I'm able to make it through Mount Moon pretty easily, but only through a combination of using Subscribe the Rattata, who's about 5 levels higher than any other Pokemon we'll encounter here, using Jigglypuff to use Sing and put the Pokemon that we're fighting to sleep, and then using a metric ton of healing stuff. And not that it matters since I can't use this Pokemon anyway, but I end up picking the Dome Fossil just because it's the less popular one and I want to be different. Anyway, moving on. I fight my way across the Nugget Bridge with relative ease by just going back and forth to the Pokemon Center a lot and make my way to Bill's house to get the SS Anne ticket. I then head to the gym to challenge Misty, and I get my ass kicked again. I don't have too much trouble with the trainers in her gym, but Misty herself is a beast, and I am just not prepared to fight her yet. I do manage to knock out her first Pokemon, but Starmie just completely obliterates my team and I black out. Now I'm at a point where I need to be more careful. You see, I need to be able to buy a lot of healing supplies, especially for once we face the Elite Four, and every time I black out, I lose a lot of money. So basically what I'm saying is we gotta spend more time grinding. And through several more hours of grinding, we are able to beat Misty's Starmie and move on to the next section of the game. And now we do reach a little bit of a sad place for our Pokemon team. I end up taking a pit stop at the daycare, making the tough decision to leave Notebell with the daycare manager so that he can raise him and help him become strong. Reason being is basically Notebell for a while now has been lagging behind our team quite a bit, and he's just so tough to train. And I'm gonna be honest, in a game that's already incredibly outdated and grindy, using the worst Pokemon is pretty aggravating and pretty time consuming. And honestly, at this point, I just was not willing to train him to the amount that he needs to be in order to help us defeat the Elite Four. So basically, for those of you that don't know, the way the daycares work in Gen 1 at least is that for every step you take is 1 point of experience your Pokemon gets in the daycare. So I just did this for several hours. After sufficiently torturing myself for a little while doing that, I make my way through the SS Anne. And I haven't just been sitting idle either. I've actually been taking advantage of every single battle I possibly can in order to level up my Pokemon. And because of that, and the dig move which I taught my Rattata, I'm able to pretty easily beat my rival. So I dispatch him, and rub the captain's back. I get cut, move on, leave the SS Anne, and pretend that my character, who's canonically 10 by the way, didn't just have to rub a grown man's back in order to get something he needed to move on. I then venture back out into the wild to catch some HM slaves that I'm going to be needing. Now quickly for the record, I'm not allowed to use these in battle, but I do need them to be able to do the basic functions of the journey. And yes, technically I could have taught Cut to Rattata and Flash to Jigglypuff, but my team's already so garbage that I really can't waste those move slots on such awful moves. So I caught an Oddish for Cut, a Mankey for Strength, and a Jigglypuff for Flash. We'll be catching a Surf Slave later on. I then spent some time grinding up my levels in Diglett's Cave, because the Pokemon that appear here are just so wildly overleveled compared to everything else in the area that even though it was a struggle to take them down, it was much worth the experience that I got preparing me for the next gym fight. I also get Flash during this time, and since I caught so many HM slaves earlier, I actually don't have a problem getting it. And then I head over to the next gym to fight Lieutenant Surge, who's referred to as the Lightning American. Does that imply the existence of America in the Pokemon universe? Anyway, in a rare victory, I actually completely demolished Lieutenant Surge just because my Rattata knows Dig, so Subscribe takes home the dub and we move on to the next portion of the game. I then head to the daycare and finally pick up Notebell. And would you believe it? He's grown to a whopping level 53. I then fight my way through Rock Tunnel, where Notebell struggles to take down a level 20 Pokemon. Yeah, not even kidding, that daycare was a complete waste of time, he's still garbage. I then fight Erica, the next gym leader, and honestly, she's really easy because my Pokemon are so grossly overleveled. In fact, that's going to be a running trend with this middle part of the game. My Pokemon are so high leveled at this point that, even though they're garbage, I do manage to steamroll through relatively easily. To summarize, next I go through Team Rocket's hideout and do the spindly puzzle things, which I kid you not, make you move slower than walking speed. It's torture. Anyway, I managed to beat Giovanni with Eric, get the Silph-Scope, and move on to the Pokemon Tower where I will now face my rival again, who I managed to defeat with Like. Once again, only because they're so overleveled. After rescuing the old man and getting the Pokeflute, I take another detour, this time to get the fishing rod and the bike voucher from the Pokemon fan, who describes Pokemon as cuddly and ravishing. Okay. I drop off Weedle at the daycare and then do some more walking. I then managed to beat the Fighting Dojo with Notebell. I'm not kidding. Metapod was able to take home the dub at this gym. I then begin the incredibly long and arduous journey through the Pokemon Tower. I mean Silph-Co, whatever. I'm getting pretty sick of this game by this point, and honestly, after all this grinding, it's made me really realize just how many amenities modern Pokemon has that these older games don't. This will probably be my last time playing through the original Gen 1 games. Although, after this torture, who could blame me? I then receive Lapras from the Silph-Co employee for saving the day, and I name it Surf Slave. And then move on to my second, but unfortunately not last, fight with Giovanni. I do have some trouble beating him now that the Pokemon levels are starting to climb up to the levels of our Pokemon, but nothing Subscribe can't handle. And with that, we beat the head of a criminal organization who took an entire building hostage, and he pays us for it. Imagine for a minute if, Giovanni was like a real criminal, and he just took out a gun right here. It would all be over, right then and there. And the president of Silph-Co is so grateful to us, he gives us the Master Ball. You know, the thing that Giovanni was after and took over an entire building to get? Yeah, he just casually hands it to us. Take note, Giovanni, next time just ask nicely. We go to the daycare to pick up Weedle, who's only grown by a lackluster 18 levels. But with the next fight being against Sabrina, we're gonna need all hands on deck. And if he doesn't manage to poison any Pokemon, he can at least be used as a sacrificial pawn. With that being said, it was time to capture the final member of our team. And we're gonna need him. I decided to break the rules a little bit and capture an immensely powerful Pokemon that Sabrina won't stand a chance against. The Elite Four is going down. Pokemon Champion going down. A Pokemon so powerful. So I use the Master Ball to catch this majestic beast, and I name it God. I fight Sabrina and lead with God. Just kidding. I told God enough to come back and then send out an actual decent Pokemon, and then I struggle through the fight and end up beating Sabrina. After I win, as a sign of my mastery, she gives me TM46. A present I will treasure for the rest of my... Just kidding, let's go fight Snorlax. I managed to beat him with Eric. Moving on, I next head through the Safari Zone to get the Warden's Teeth and Surf. Warden's so grateful he gives me strength, and we beat the next gym leader. Now keep in mind, even though our Pokemon are so bad, there's still a relatively decent amount of levels ahead of the rest of the game, so we're doing okay right now. Well, in relative terms. Anyway, since the middle third of the game does drag quite a bit, I'm just going to briefly summarize what I was up to during this portion. Zapdos one-shotted my entire team. I made my way through the Seafoam Islands and the Pokemon Mansion, defeated Blaine and Giovanni for a third time, dropped off the Dome Fossil at the Fossil Research Area, and never returned for it. I figured, you know what, I'll let it be a gift for science since I'll never use it. And finally, I struggled my way through Victory Road. Now here's the thing. My team for most of the game has been very over-leveled, but now they're pretty on par with most of the Pokemon I'm fighting, and my Pokemon are so garbage that they're struggling pretty hard against Pokemon their own level. I guess correctly, then I'm probably going to be losing to the Elite Four quite a few times before I clear them all, so I spend all the money I can on revives, potions, and a lot of other healing items. I initiate my fight with Lorelei, and little did I ever guess, she actually ends up being the toughest battle in this entire playthrough. And that's by a long shot. But rather than waste all my healing items right out the gate, I decided to just keep letting her beat me until I could finally beat her in an XP grinder for quite a while. And after about 20 attempts, and I'm not kidding, probably close to 20 attempts, I finished her off with Comment. But here I arrived at a crossroads. I ended up using quite a lot of healing items once I started fighting Bruno in order to get my Pokemon up to snuff, but unfortunately my only usable Pokemon are like the Jigglypuff and Subscribe the Rattata, with Eric the Zubat having some limited uses. Unfortunately, Metapod, Magikarp, and Weedle, although insanely high leveled, just can't defeat anything in the Elite Four. So I basically had to solo the entire thing with just a Jigglypuff and a Rattata, who are still garbage Pokemon, but comparative to the rest of my team, not as bad. But the problem that comes with this is I'm gonna run out of power points for most of my moves as I make my way through. And as you can see, by the time I'm fighting Agatha, after I beat Bruno, I'm in pretty rough shape. I end up beating Agatha by pure luck, getting some critical hits in along the way. But by the time I get to Lance, I'm running dangerously low on revives and healing potions. So my strategy is to have everyone healed up and use my weaker Pokemon as sacrifices during the battle while I heal up my more powerful ones when they faint. But I'm very careful and take my time with this battle. I end up defeating Lance's last Dragonite with Eric, and this is only through pure luck. Throughout the whole battle, Dragonite just spammed Barrier instead of using Hyper Beam, so it was able to let me get the victory. But I still have one more battle to fight, and I only have a couple revives left. We're talking like 2 of them now. So we move on to the next battle, after I stop Eric from evolving. Yeah, that's another annoying thing I had to do. I had to stop all my Pokemon from evolving like every time they leveled up. So with unbearably bad odds, I head into my last fight. It ends up being pretty tricky, but I'm able to nudge out a victory incredibly razor thin. And if you're wondering how I got around the PowerPoint problem, I did have a couple of max ethers that did help, and I taught Jigglypuff a new move, which greatly increased my chances of having enough moves to actually beat Gary. I mean, Hoobie-ass. So, like the Jigglypuff, uses Fire Blast and finally defeats Venusaur. We have defeated the Elite Four and the Champion, and beaten Pokemon with quite possibly the worst Pokemon team ever to exist. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. It did take quite a long time to make, so if you enjoyed it, please subscribe. As for me, I know I don't usually do gaming type videos like this, but if this does well, I might do more gaming videos. We'll see. And if this video gets, let's say, 100 likes within 2 months, I'll make a beating Pokemon Diamond and Pearl with a team of only 6 Bidoofs. Anyway, that's all for now, so all I can say is don't forget to subscribe.